this is a bodysuit, right? This is not you.
Yeah.
The person you see in the mirror is not you. It's like saying that the outfit that I'm wearing is me.
It's you.
It's not you. There is a you on the inside of you, right? And that person, or that person, or that version of you is the unseen version that we do not, see with our physical eyes.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of To Be Quite Honest podcast. And of course, I remain your ever beautiful host, Norma, and with me I have Big Ben.
Hello, people.
Hello. So today we're going to be doing things a little different. We have a special guest, and our guest today is someone you want to hear from. I will just introduce what the topic is about, so you guys will be, anticipating what you're going to hear about today. Today we're going to be discussing inner infrastructure. And basically, what we mean by that is, why should Africans build themselves while they're building wealth? And the topic basically just, explores how real transformation, happens in personal development, whether it's culturally, socially, and emotionally. Exactly. Sorry. So I would leave the floor for our guest to do a brief intro of what he does. And it's no other than Mr. Bankole Williams. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, right, I was going to say no other than Banky W to confuse our but like our co-host said, like Big Ben said at the back of the, before we started rolling, it was like, this is the Banky W of consulting.
Exactly.
And many other things.
And many other things.
So, Mr. Bankole Williams, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, first things first, it's great to be here. So I wear a number of hats. So I just tell you a bit about
hats today.
No, not today.
We want everything.
I'm bringing it back.
Yeah.
Right. First is that I am a management consultant. So I help employees of corporate institutions get great work done in less time, so they can, achieve the objectives of the organizations.
Okay.
So I've done some amazing work with a number of corporate organizations within and outside the country. I work majorly with corporates.
Okay.
I equip and empower their people to make money, right, for the organizations. So there's that. I also run a foundation. So I'm quite passionate about Africa. So it's interesting that we're having this conversation. So I have a foundation called Live Your Dreams Africa.
Wow. Live Your Dreams Africa.
Yeah.
That's nice.
And we're primarily set up to solve the problems of unemployment and underemployment across Africa. Because we recognize that if the growing youth bulge, right, this youth bulge in population that we have in Africa, in 2050, right, Africa would possibly have about 70% of the world's youth population, right? And if this continues, it's important to equip these people, right, with skills and knowledge, right? So we have some great work we've done with the foundation. Then I also am very passionate about inner infrastructure, right? So I'm very passionate about the mind and how the mind is like the engine room for any result that you see in any ramification of life. So I'm a life coach. I'm also a psychotherapist. So I'm really big on helping people bring about change. And at the heart of change is just the mind and the inner infrastructure that we have that we can re-engineer to really bring about tangible results in our behaviors, but not just in behavior, but also in our performance, right? In different ramifications of our lives. So that's a bit about me.
Well, I'm glad to be here. Because my mind is my mind is about to be opened up.
Interesting. Welcome again, Mr. Banky W of Management Consulting and other things.
Yeah, thank you.
It's so nice to have you with us. I like the fact that we connect on so many levels. Our organization is a Pan-African focused business, and we like to even hear that, you have a couple of endeavors, not just targeting the Nigerian.
But Africa.
Yeah, but looking broadly at the African space. But first of all, I just want to, look at that topic.
Yeah.
Look at that topic again.
Yeah.
So I feel like this topic is really important because today we're starting to see a lot of people prioritize money over everything else. Politically, we see political parties where there are no ideologies, just have the money and then get into any of them as a platform, and that's it. We see people not try to do any work on themselves, just feel like the minute I make that money, that's it.
Honestly.
And we even see younger people, secondary school guys, doing all sorts just to get rich. So everybody wants to avoid that learning curve and all of that. That's why this is important, and we think you're one of the best people we could reach out to help get into the meat of this topic. So on a personal level, do you have any personal observations or any personal stories
that made you
that link to this topic, basically?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's so many stories because of what I do. I work with people. I work with various clients. I'm reminded of a particular individual who runs, or should I say, who used to run a tech company that was tech startup that was massively successful. Right. And, they brought him to me at a point where it was critical, raised some really good money for the business that became massively successful. And because, he didn't prioritize along his own journey, along his own path, he didn't prioritize, that inner change, that mindset shift. Right. For him, it was just a good thing. Finally, this money that we've been chasing, it has come. And the thing with, raising finance like that is, in a short period of time, a lot of money just comes.
It comes.
Right. Exactly. Money quick to enter, quick to go.
Of course.
Right. And, he hadn't built capacity to be able to handle that. Yeah. Right. And made some very wrong decisions along the way, long and short, the business collapsed. Yeah. Right. Investors were upset, there was certain people depending on the success of this business, but because of, the lack of proper corporate governance, but beyond that, the lack of the right behavioral traits that are necessary for you to be able to uphold that kind of, money. Yeah. Right. He lost everything.
Wow.
Right. And I see these kinds of things happen a lot in Africa. And I say this because we have a system that prioritizes or that attaches worth to wealth.
Yeah.
So people believe that for you to have a sense of worth, right, you have to have a lot of wealth.
Yeah.
And a lot of these things sometimes are subconscious indoctrinations.
Yeah.
From when you are young, you are raised by parents who want you to be an achiever for very good reasons. And one of the things I say about upbringing is parents have the best of intentions, right? But when you live in an environment where survival has been the order of the day, right, without the parents knowing, unconsciously, they are driving the children to be so performance focused, right? And it's good to get results, no doubt, but not at the expense of character, right? So let me even use myself as an example. My parents had the best of intentions, but one of the things I say is you may have the best of intentions, but if you have the wrong expression,
how do you pass the information?
How do you pass the information across? You have a good intention, but children really may not fully understand it.
I mean, they're children.
Yeah, they are. They're kids, right? Well, I know that growing up, there were periods where I knew that my dad had his rough patches financially, right? My father, I know that at a point in time in his own path, journey for his education, he couldn't further at a certain point. So one of the things I always heard him say was, you see, this education thing is the only thing I owe you, and I must make sure that I give it to you. Yeah. And he really wanted me to be the best, right? Which is a good thing, really.
Of course.
Yeah, but when there is so much obsession about it,
it's like pressure.
Yeah, there's the pressure to perform. Now, you leave your parents, but there is still that unconscious, it's still there, pressure to consistently be performing, where the order of the day is just to be busy to get, at the end of the day, the performance is for what? It's for profit, to make money, right? Now, we've created a system that whether we recognize it or not, the average person comes out and that's what they're thinking of. And we're not prioritizing character development. We're not prioritizing values. We are not prioritizing human capacity development. Those are not conversations that are prevalent or predominant, in these parts, right? Education doesn't seem to be a big deal to the government. They'll prioritize, capital intensive projects and external infrastructure, and nobody's really having conversations about what we need to do to ensure that we ingrain the right values in people. Now, if that is not systemic, as in systemic being that the nation as a whole or the continent as a whole is thinking about how that becomes cultural, right? And even in the family, because people are coming from backgrounds of survival, there is still the neocolonialism, that we are still carrying, from our forefathers, one generation to another. We still have that mindset of survival. If that is the prevalent, culture, right? What kind of society would we have? What kind of people would we have, right? So the truth is, I think it's something that is really a priority. It needs to be prioritized, understanding that there needs to be a balance between what happens within you and what happens externally.
Interesting. While you were speaking, it started to cross my mind. Almost every family has that uncle that used to be very rich back in the day, and today the story is different. In fact, even younger people have started to record those kind of stories.
Yeah, of course.
Your early 20s, you were at wash your funds, you felt like, on top of the world, and then you're in your mid-30s, and there's really nothing to show for it. No relationships were built along the line. There was no investment, mindset, investment consciousness. There was no, it's just the lack of all of these things. So yeah, I think this is
like
it's really eye opening.
It is, but there's a saying that I'm so I hear quite often, right? I hear it quite often. Like sometimes my friends and I, when we're discussing, it comes up a lot. Like you are a subject to the environment you grew up in.
Absolutely.
So in terms, it's easy. Why we do this is for information, to let them know that, okay, regardless of having to want success or wealth, apart from success, let's remove that. Like, let's remove success and let's differentiate wealth and success. Apart from being wealthy, you have to have the guiding principles as to what that wealth can do, and just being able to, invest it. And like you said, like he has said, we use the tech guy, for example, that type of money, when you see that type of money, you don't know where to, go put it and all of those things, and just be able to use it. So I guess at the end of the day, this type of conversation is useful.
Absolutely.
But I wanted to ask you, how then does someone know that their inner infrastructure is weak?
Well, you see, there's a direct connection between,
Sorry to cut you. Before you say how they know, you have a definition of what the inner infrastructure is, right?
Yes.
Could you just let us know that?
Well, for me, it's the inner architecture of the unseen. It is the parts of you that we do not see that are responsible for everything that we see.
Yeah.
Right? This is a bodysuit. Right? This is not you.
Yeah.
The person you see in the mirror is not you. It's like saying that the outfit that I'm wearing is me.
It's you.
It's not you. There is a you on the inside of you. Right? And that person, or that person or that version of you is the unseen version that we do not see with our physical eyes. Now, that part of you has an emotional side.
Yeah.
Right? That part of you, has thoughts, right? You think certain kinds of thoughts, you feel certain kinds of emotions that ultimately determine the kinds of beliefs you have, ultimately determine the kind of identity that you have and the person that you show up as, right? So for me, the inner infrastructure is, it's like the foundation of a building. So we see the building is the scaffolding that holds everything together. Yeah. Right. That's really what I call an inner infrastructure.
Okay. Yeah.
So how are people able to carry out, personal audits to know where they are, right now? So they know, do I have work to do? I mean, having said that, I'm just thinking, how do we carry out like a self-audit so we know where we are with respect to our inner workings, right?
But before the self-audit, he has to tell us, how does one person know like their inner infrastructure is weak? Yeah.
Okay.
So let me use...
Because I feel like as Africans, right, we're kind of positioned in our mind to just keep going. We don't have time to self-reflect most times. You know, because like you said, it boils down to back in the day. And this is what we've known. Like me now, as I would use myself as and the way the world is evolving, me now use myself as a woman.
Yeah.
Like, of course, what the society has made it look like back then was, as a woman, you just when you grow up, you do education, shall marry, you shall do this, you shall do that, you know.
Yeah.
But it took one lady to say, but I don't want to just be sitting at home. I want to be able to go and, you know, see her time to reflect for her inner infrastructure and say, I don't want to just be this person. I want to be more. I want to be able to do more, do this and do that, you know. So as human beings, what's that, you know, how do we then able to pinpoint that our inner infrastructure is weak?
Absolutely, I can tell you.
Yeah.
So, like I said, you're not this bodysuit. There's something that's happening inside of you. There's the mental side of you. There's also the psychological side of you. There's the spiritual side of you. Right now, God has blessed us with this thing called emotions. Emotions are a feedback mechanism telling us where we are. Right, where we are in our journeys.
Yeah.
Right now, a lot of the thoughts that we think as human beings. Right. A lot of the times we're thinking thoughts and we're not even aware that we're thinking those thoughts. Right. Over 95% of our thoughts are unconscious. Right. The average person thinks about 60. Yeah. The average person thinks about 60,000 thoughts in a day. Oh. Can you remember 50 things you thought of yesterday?
No, I can't remember.
Right. So stuff is always going on internally. Right. But you see, chasing every single thought would really just look like an ordeal.
Yeah.
But you see, God has given us emotions that tell us where our thoughts have been, where we have been relative to our thought life. Right. So you feel a certain way. That is feedback to you that something needs to be checked. And you see, I see a lot, and this thing is prevalent, particularly in this country, where stress seems like the norm. I remember that when there was a stage in my life where I was so busy, and it just felt normal to be busy. I thought that that's how everybody lived, right? To be busy, but not, it's one thing to be busy, it's another thing to be busy and to be stressed. My emotions, we all have bodily sensations. They were telling me, guy,
you need to calm down.
You need to calm down. But remember what I told you about my orientation based off how I was raised, right? There was the consistent need to keep chasing, right? To keep getting, to keep achieving. So I just thought this was normal, right? And it was not until, I had my own personal audits, and it was an intervention, it was an experience that I had, where I attended a program that made me really just pause to think, hey, at the end of the day, what are you chasing in this life? If you think about it, for the average person that works a 9 to 5, what are they chasing in this life? They say, their salary, we're working here because of the money.
Sustainability.
Right? But at the end of the day, nobody goes to the ATM, withdraws money and puts it in their mouth. Nobody does that. Right? So it's not for the money, it's for what the money can do for you.
Yeah.
So what do you do with the money? You buy yourself those fancy shoes, red bottoms. Exactly. When you wear those shoes, you feel good. There's a feeling. So that's what you're chasing, that feeling. At the end of the day, the end of every human endeavor is a feeling. That's all we're chasing. You pay your children's school fees. There's a feeling of satisfaction knowing that you can fulfill that obligation to your kids. That's what we're chasing. So watch this. If at the end we're chasing a feeling, does it now make sense not feeling that feeling in order to get money to get that feeling?
Food for thoughts.
Do you understand? It doesn't make any sense. So in the journey of pursuing money, remember that what you are really chasing
is a feeling.
It's a feeling.
And that's it.
Right? Actually. And on the journey, you actually can feel that feeling, and if you find that, and your emotions will tell you you're not in alignment with what it is you want, it's important to pause, right? Recenter and recalibrate and ensure that, your priorities are right.
Yeah.
So emotions will always tell you. Bodily sensations will tell you. You would feel it in your body that, guy, something is off.
Yeah.
But you see, the problem is most people are so used to doing something that it's now automated. So it just feels like them. Stress for some people feels like them. So when they don't feel stressed, they get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right? For some people, when productivity has become their identity, rest now begins to feel like guilt. So when it's time to just relax, they feel guilty.
Yeah, they feel like I should do something.
I'm not.
Tell them take leave now. Like leave. Let's wait till December. And December will come. Like some diasporans are coming to the country this period. I need to be around ground for them.
So people are consistently on the go, and you see, I see this in Lagos. It's just the norm. We're just on the go, and living out of the emotions of stress and survival, right? And we don't see that ultimately, that thing you are chasing, it ultimately even affects it, because you don't show up as your best self. You may think that, this is the most optimal version of me, but the truth is you can never show up as your best self when you're operating from survival and stress. Because survival and stress cannot happen simultaneously with growth and creativity. What you are using for one, you're losing for the other. So the most optimal version of you is when you are in a state of inner balance, when you've actually prioritized that inner infrastructure, right? And when you prioritize that, every other thing flows from there.
So at the end of the day, follow the money. The money is the thing we're all chasing, right? So when it comes in, what do you do with it?
The feeling.
So does he point you to where you want to get to? Or does it just leave you with one feeling that is, that will pass? Because at the end of the day, if you do all this for just the flashy things, at some point you get tired of it. That car you just bought and, you can't sleep that first night. 8 months down the line, when you first buy a car, you're very careful on the road.
Yeah.
Don't scratch me, anybody scratch me. But like a year and a half down the line, this car, I don't do this for a while. You're dragging.
But do you think as Africans, right? Like as Africans, do you think that our feelings change based on what our circle, like, how will I put it? Like, do you think how we're chasing money? I'm trying to put the question. I have the question in my mind, but I don't know how to. Do you think our feelings change based on our circles? Like, how you said you buy a new car. Do you think your guy now will see that you bought a new car, will now be trying to stress himself and push to get that feeling that you've had? And eventually when he gets that feeling that you've had, he understands that that's not the feeling that he wants. Do you think our feelings change based on...
There's peer pressure now.
Pressure.
People are regulated by what they see in other people, right? And they're like, until I get that thing that you have, let me experience it first before you tell me it doesn't work. So I think the environment definitely plays a role. Your association, the people you surround yourself with, plays a role. If you're consistently around people who use corrupt means, for instance, to make money, and those are the people you surround yourself with, even if that wasn't your original intent, you see what you keep seeing, you become, right? What you behold, you become. If you are consistently in that kind of environment, the thoughts will start. Even your parents didn't train you that way, but you are consistently in the midst of those people. All of a sudden, you start thinking,
this is not bad. Let me just
not bad.
It's not that bad.
And then you do one
is when they will catch you.
So definitely it does.
It does.
So for people who have, carried out that self-audit and they know that the trajectory they're on isn't great, isn't going to take them to where they're headed, to probably help them make money, but eventually overall satisfaction personally, will be lacking.
Like fulfillment.
How would you recommend that people like that, look inward and start to develop themselves rightly again?
Yeah. So, the first thing, like you said, is what I call self-audit or self-awareness.
Yeah.
Self-awareness for me kickstarts the process of change. I find that a lot of people they don't really know themselves. I don't know if you've experienced this where you ask someone to describe themselves and
they stuck.
Sometimes they're stuck or they describe themselves as who they aspire to be like. And you're like,
or what they are currently are. What they are currently are. Like now, you can see, like,
their job.
Yeah. Like, there was a training I went for and they were like, describe yourself without what you do.
Absolutely.
You would just be like,
who are you?
They actually said, describe yourself without what you do and your surroundings. So your name is Norma Aneto. We know that. What else? Tell us what else. Forget every other thing. What you do, who you are, what you are to your mother, father.
Just titles.
Exactly. Who are you?
And most people do not know. In fact, it's for most people, like the first time it hits them that my identity, I draw it from my work. For most people, it's the first time they realize, oh, okay, I identify with my work, and that's who I keep showing up as, and I keep telling people that I am, right? But there is more to you than that, right?
Definitely.
There's more to you. Identity for me, when I think of the concept of identity, I think, like I said, if I'm not this physical form, then I'm everything that's happening internally, right? So what is happening inside? I'm thinking thoughts. I am feeling emotions. And with thoughts and emotions, I enter a state of being, and I have a personality that I show up as. So I'll make it very practical. Some people don't realize that they identify with not being good enough, right? And that's the identity. They don't realize it. So
it's just like a thought at the back of your head.
Exactly. And every day they wake up to those thoughts, right? They think those thoughts where they feel like that's imposter syndrome. They might be doing good work, but they don't feel confident of the good work that they're doing because there's something that maybe they were told when they were kids several years ago. They are still, and that makes them not feel good enough, and they still identify with that, right? And every day they wake up, that's the thoughts that they're thinking that lands them in the feeling of not being good enough, right? And they do that repeatedly over and over again. Now, repetition enhances retention. What you repeat, you automate. So it's now automatic that they pick up that identity and they show up every morning that way and go for an interview and wonder why they're not selected. You entered with a vibe into the room. And that vibe that you entered with into the room already spoke before you opened your mouth, right? And I think that it's important that people start becoming aware. What kind of thoughts predominantly do I think? Do I wake up every day thinking of the greatest, highest, grandest version of myself? Is that the selection that I make? Every day life will present you a buffet, right? It's your choice to be able to decide what version of yourself you're going to pick. Some people default to their defaults. And their default for most people is their lowest common denominator, the least version of themselves. But you have to be intentional to say, hey, today is a brand new day with brand new opportunities, right? Every day we're loaded with benefits. So I have a buffet in front of me. What am I going to select? You go to the best of buffets and you see people eating the same rice.
White rice.
Not me.
In their home. Exactly. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make the best selection of meals. I'm going to select the highest, grandest version of myself. What would greatness look like today? How would greatness talk? How would greatness walk? Right? Now, so the first thing is awareness. Recognize that, hey, I like judging myself. As in, just be honest with yourself that you have a tendency to keep seeing the downside of things and to not see the greatness in yourself. So that's the first thing, self-awareness. Become aware of the problem. You can't fix a problem you do not know. Right? Become aware of the problem. Now, the question is, who do you want to be? How do you want to show up? You are not a victim of circumstances and situations. Absolutely not. You are the creator of your reality, right? You can't decide here and now how you want your life to be. So decide who you want to be. So if for instance, you keep thinking of yourself, as being not good enough, but you want to you want to show up as your grandest version of yourself, right? Then you then have to start rethinking new thoughts. And one of the ways to rethink new thoughts is to begin to affirm who you want to be as though you are. It's just the way the brain, it's just
so affirmations
system.
Work.
Oh, they do. Oh, they do. Well, when properly scripted and well said, right? Yes, they do. So affirming to yourself this identity that you want to embody, because your body will always go in the direction of your mind. And your mind will always go in the direction of what you feed it with. Right? So your mind is consistently feeding. So you now have to be intentional to feed your mind with this affirmation that aligns with what you want. Now, when you feed your mind with that, the body now starts to release the chemicals that match what you are affirming. You start to feel those sensations. The body starts releasing the hormones that match what it is that you are saying, because what you consistently think will create feelings, right? And your feelings now become the next thoughts. And as you think and feel and think and feel, you become.
Yeah.
Exactly. So people have, let's say somebody has spent 35 years on earth, right? 35 years of thinking that they are not good enough, right? Now you want to change that. You've repeated that practice. Then the same process needs to be replicated here. You need to repeat this practice of consistently affirming to yourself this identity that you want to embody, right? And as you do that, something's going to shift.
But do you think as Africans, we glorify hustle and not healing?
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Right. And a lot of these things they even come from colonialism, right? If you think about it, the way the brain is created, it automates what it repeats. It's one of the adaptive features of the brain, right? The brain conserves energy by helping you automate a process so that you don't have to think about it. You're coming up the stairs today. You ran up the stairs. You didn't have to think, how high do I have to lift my leg? Right? The brain has automated that process. You don't have to think about it. Your body can do it now. Now, when people repeatedly experience something, the brain sees it as a reason to automate that thing. So imagine our forefathers repeatedly experiencing, the harshness that came with being enslaved. Right? That's all they saw. And they saw that if they needed to get something, they needed to work rigorously, hard to get it. Now, some of these things are also transferred from one generation to another. So generations down the line, something is within the average African that makes them feel like they need to hustle, like they just need to work. Just survival mentality. And that, this is not to say people shouldn't work. No. Yes, you should work.
Please work.
Please definitely work, right? But there's that hustle at the expense of what's happening inside. Like what's happening inside doesn't really matter. A mother has to take care of her child, right? And she doesn't care anything about what's happening with her own emotions, and she prioritizes her child. And that is great. That is so laudable, right? But it should also never be at the expense of losing yourself. Yeah, because there's only so much love you can give when you have not first loved yourself, right? So there's that is ingrained in us as a result of experiences from the past. But you see, what also impacts on the brain's automation is intensity. Meaning when you experience something that really touches your emotions significantly, right? The brain sees it as a reason to automate that process. So
are we standing at the fact that experience is the best teacher?
Well, it doesn't have to be yours.
Exactly. The experience of some other people.
You can learn from it. But my point is, that thing does something to you. It can be for good. So it can be a good, positive, intense experience. But when it's now negatively intense experience, right, it then begins to condition you to see life through limited lenses, right? And that's one of the reasons why in these parts in Africa, there is that consciousness of a hustle lifestyle, right, at the expense of prioritizing what's happening inside of us.
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is what's happening inside of us really also determines what we attract and what comes in our direction.
Yeah.
Every step we take, every way we live should be filled with peace, joy, and serenity. Now, if you're looking for a community that offers all these with infrastructure and the right amenities for you and your family to thrive, look no further than Mixed Africa Estates. Now, Mixed Africa, over the last 20 years, has basically been provided the kind of community, over 15 estates with 5,000 housing units that people have been thriving in. Look forward to welcoming you in one of our Mixed estates.
So within this context, how does accountability and coaching really help? Because most of us are already locked into that mindset, right?
Yeah.
We saw our parents that way. Our parents saw their parents, that way.
God knows we don't want to pass it to our children.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
How does coaching, how does accountability, come in to help, change the course of things?
So you see, I think that things are, so there's individual change that can be generated by everyone.
Okay.
There's also the change that I also believe that is systemic. So as a nation, what are we doing as a nation, right, to ensure that education becomes a priority? What are we doing as a nation to ensure that this conversation on inner healing and all that, right, really matters? Because the truth is, if everyone remains as they are, right, and we want this country to be better, some of the people that we know today will get into positions of power, right, and produce the same kind of corruption that we're experiencing, right? Now, if we are not reorienting people to have the right values, if we are not reorienting people to deal with their inner issues and all of that, we'll produce the same kinds of outcomes. So I think that there is a systemic angle to it where the leadership also needs to understand that, this is priority. Education is important. That level of accountability is important. But even as an individual, right, you said something about life coaching and all that. It's important to surround yourself with people who have what it is that you desire, right? You can pick up things from them and be accountable to those kinds of people. So find somebody who is already exhibiting these kinds of values that you want to exhibit. Somebody who is already succeeding in that area that you want to succeed in, right? And associate yourself with them. Association really, really matters. I'll give you an example. Have you ever heard somebody who had maybe a Caucasian who had an accent, and then your accent changed? You notice that
it happens a lot.
When you said that, I just remembered a video where I saw like the lady was like, she and her friend went out, and then her friend started like, for every person that was sitting on the table. So it's just funny because the audio goes, which accent is this one? Like the lady would change for, if it's a British that sits here, she would do British
switch the accent.
If it's American. So when eventually the British and the American left, she was not talking to her friend. She was not interchanging the two. The person that said, which accent is this? Like you get so used to the fact that you're pretending that you forget that you
actually happens a lot. You just switch. It's not like you decided that you switch. You just discovered that, hey, okay, I'm speaking for now.
I'm now British.
Right? That is how powerful association is. Right? So find the people who are producing the kinds of results that you desire to produce. Surround yourself with them and be accountable to those kinds of people, right? And you would begin to, the same way your accent changed without you trying. You caught it. You catch something by being around the kinds of people that have the character traits, the values, that are important for you to emulate. Then, if you can't afford it, like you rightly said, get a coach. Get somebody who understands how to help you navigate what's happening inside of you to bring about change. I'll tell you a story, true story. A guy came to my office, right? And he said to me, Bankole, I have a problem. I said, what's the problem? He said, I am my problem. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, see, can you see he showed me an email, right? He said, see, this organization needs my service. They've been on my case. They want to pay me money to do this thing. But just to sit down
and get this thing
and
done.
just get this thing done is a problem. And it's a lot of money at stake, but I've just not been able to bring myself to do it. So I knew what the problem was. And I said to him, okay, if you could get your acts right, how long would it take you to get this thing done? He said about a week. I think this was Friday when he came to my office. He said about a week, I'll get it done. By next week, Friday, I should be done. If I can just focus to get it right. So he didn't know where I was going. I said, tell me somebody who you do not like. Right. So he thought hard and he said, there's this colleague of his, he doesn't like the guy at all, man. Nah. Right. So he gave me the guy's name. I said, please give me his number. So he was wondering, why do you answer? I said, don't worry, just give me his number. I said, tell me something that's valuable to you. So he looked at me and said, Bankole, money is valuable to me. I said, how much money would you lose that would really hurt you? As in, this was like 5 years ago or something. I said, 1M, you know.
Then 1M was big money.
Yeah. He said, so I said to him, 1M. I said, you have 1M? He said, oh yeah, I do. I looked him in the face and I said, you are a weakling. And this guy is alpha male.
Yeah.
A serious alpha male. I said, you are a weakling. If you do not transfer 1M to me right now, and if by next week, Friday, you haven't delivered this thing, I will send this 1M out to this guy that you said you do not like. I say, you're a weakling. This guy, alpha male, like, how can you call me a weakling? I say, yes, you are a weakling if you do not do that right now. You know, obviously his ego was in the way. He said, no, what do you mean? I can say, yes, you are. So he sent me 1M immediately. I said, if by next week, Friday, you don't get this thing done, see this guy you don't like, I'm going to send him and send, God forbid it.
Any reason why he didn't like the person?
Well, he didn't tell me exactly why, right? But by Thursday,
he had it done.
He had it done.
Wow.
Right. And that's just the power of accountability. Yeah.
But then what then happens when you're not kind of like prone to that type of environment where you want that accountability, but you don't have people that can give it to you? Like you're not as fortunate to have those type of people around your circles. And then you've spoken about coaching, how you can also pay for it. I've tried coaching myself and some prices that these people quote. It's not like I'm shading life coaches, but it's high. It's high for the average Nigerian. Except for like the people that maybe are still starting, calling it just like a startup career for themselves and are happy to take on those, some people to learn. But then you also look at it like nobody wants to go with the startup life coach. Everybody wants someone. No shade again to the people that are trying to dive into that. But what happens when your environment doesn't provide you that, and then also you don't have the funds,
resources
to follow through with a life coach? What then happens? Are you then stuck with that mindset and just have to live with it? Or
absolutely not. I think that we're in an era where there's even more than enough information. Yeah. There's just so much, right? Simple as who do you even follow on Instagram, right? You know, are you following people who are living a picture of your future, right? Because those people will be dropping tips along the way that would empower you. There's so many resources out there on YouTube alone, right? There's so many materials. There are international, globally recognized coaches that teach on these things, and it's free material that you can find. So it's not always about being in the same physical location with somebody, right? That is powerful, but now with the internet, there is so much that can be done. So I think that what is important is, have you identified what it is that you want, and is it a nice to do or is it a must do? Is this something that you have decided within yourself that is important, and I cannot, allow this thing remain this way. I have to change my life, right? So yes, there's information that you can expose yourself to, but you see, there's also, whilst you may not be in that environment, you can take yourself to the environment that is a reflection of what it is that you want. We are all, environment conditions you, man. Yeah, tell me.
So are you saying like I'm not saying that you support it. But are you saying that it's okay for people to fake it till they make it? Because what happens if the environment I want to be in, I don't have whatever it takes, but one way or the other, I find myself in this environment.
Mm-hmm.
I then now start to, I forgot that. Yeah, like act like that environment just so that I fit in enough not to be kicked out, but I know that I don't have it. So I'm just balancing and, taking whatever I hear or see just to make myself be up to the standards of it.
I think that the intention is what matters. Is the intention for your development, or the intention is to keep up appearances and to... Yeah.
So so you don't mind the fake it till you make it?
There's a context to my responding to that.
Okay. Right? You said it.
Yeah, so I won't say that. I won't give a definitive answer to that for everything. Yes. And I would say that, and I'm saying this because your mind and body do not know the difference between what is imagined and what is real. So there is a principle behind faking it to make it. So I'm not saying you should fake it, but I'm saying that your mind does not know what fiction is. Mm-hmm. So when you create the fiction, the mind takes it as real.
Yeah.
And begins to condition the body to produce that reality.
Yeah.
Right? So let me give you an example. I always like to make things practical. You watch a movie that has a sad ending, you begin to cry.
Yeah.
Did the actor die in real life?
No.
No.
People even see actors who probably kill their favorite
and they hate them.
They're like, this guy.
Well, have both of you seen the movie Anne on Netflix? I can't remember the name. But it was about a lady, a young girl that didn't really have so much. And then eventually she found herself around like rich people. And she was, they eventually arrested her. So they had to tell her story. I can't remember the name of the movie, but it was really good in context to what you're saying. So she kept telling everybody, my dad will send it. My dad is a rich guy. My dad is this, my dad is that. But her dad was just a normal guy in his community that was just trying to make ends meet, but she found herself where with all these rich people, and she was very smart. So it was just a way of she was just walking around, and everyone would be like, who is this babe? Who is this babe? This babe is too good. But eventually they arrested her because she even got to the bank of, I can't remember the name of when it came out, it was very popular.
Wow,
but just to reiterate what you're saying, just how your mind would accept the fiction like is reality.
Yeah, but in her case, obviously she went about it the wrong way, right? Because she was telling lies.
She was telling lies, but that lie got her a great deal with the Bank of America. Like she even got to that high where she could get a loan from them to start a business.
And ended up where?
Fair.
Right, in prison, right.
So there's an angle I'm even looking at this from, right? You've spoken about how the things you consume oftentimes, lead to, your predominant thoughts, and then before you start to act out those things. Mm-hmm. So people lots of young guys go on social media these days and see things like, only women and dogs are loved unconditionally. A man is only loved to the extent to which he can provide, right? And then for some of these people, they've done the self-introspection and they know what they should really be doing. But that path doesn't seem like a path that will bring them a lot of wealth.
Yeah.
Right? And they're not thinking, if I want to attract the kind of woman who I like, she wants money.
She wants to be spoiled.
Maybe I should, abandon this one and just join the bandwagon and just be all about the money. So for people like that, what would your advice be to them?
Well, at the end of the day, remember we've been talking about inner infrastructure.
Yeah.
Right? It should never be at the expense of and what really is this? It should never be at the expense of your emotional intelligence. It should never be at the expense of your values.
Yeah.
Right? It should never be at the expense of the right habits and the identity that you want to uphold. So if you see a pathway that questions this, then it's at the detriment of what's happening on the inside of you. And ultimately, pretty much like the story that you shared, whilst people look at temporary gains. It looks good for now, right? But ultimately, what does it do to you? Remember what I said at the beginning. What are you chasing at the end of the day? Right? You are chasing a feeling. What are those feelings? You want to be happy. right? You want to be at peace. But then you go about it, right? You go about doing something that is illegal or something that's corrupt to get it at the expense of, your own soul and what's happening internally. So there are people who have the resources, right? Have the money and all of that. But I'm telling you, you have no clue what's going on inside of them. They can barely sleep at night, right? If we were to check what is really happening inside their hearts, these guys are consistently in a state of anxiety, right? But you are trying to make the money to be happy, living anxious. It doesn't make any sense.
That was what I said at the before we started. They're like, oh, if someone gets into G or this thing, gets money, but has the right mindset to invest. I'm thinking, okay, invest then. The person where you kill, they hunt you for night.
Do you understand?
My investment is still there. Hunt me. At the end of the day, it will still catch up with you, won't it?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And see, some people are in denial, right? See, you can be in denial. It doesn't rule out what is happening inside of you. So you can be saying, no, I'm okay. Oh, no, you are not okay, right? And you see, some of these things ultimately manifest in different forms. Some people end up having to deal with one kind of medical condition that they don't understand because why? Stress, right? There's a stress. There's some form of stress that's going on inside your soul, inside your system, that's ultimately now manifesting in and taking some kind of form in your body that's causing an ailment that you're having to deal with. So it's definitely not wise, right, to chase resources or chase finances or wealth at the expense of, these values.
So let's reimagine the kind of Africa we would like to see, especially in the context of, the younger people who we're seeing are like a larger percentage of the population of Africa. What's the kind of African youth that you envision? Especially with what you do, your foundation and all of the other things.
Well, I envision an African youth that prioritizes their values, understanding that the engine room for any advancement in any nation is premised and predicated on values. Right? I imagine an African youth who prioritizes things like honesty, who prioritizes integrity, who prioritizes inner balance and peace, right? And I imagine for there to be an African youth like that, there's an Africa that has created pathways for us to make these things, a reality. An African youth that prioritizes education, from when they are young and they are looking to become, doctors, prioritizing the career paths that we want for the youth and not a young person looking at somebody who is making money through some illegal means, and that's what they're aspiring towards.
Or who making money and don't know the source.
Exactly, and not knowing the source, right? If you ask, I heard someone say this. He said, if you ask the youth of a nation who their heroes are, and they cannot mention people within that nation that they aspire to be like, right? There's a problem with the future of that nation. So most people, when you ask them, they will mention, tell me a great leader. They will mention names of people that are dead and gone. They can't mention names of people that are here in the now. Right? That is a problem. So I imagine an Africa where a child can call his father his hero. Who do you want to be like? I want to be like my dad. Because my father emulates these values and also shows the success that I want to see in my own life. Right? And I think that if we keep reorienting our people, the problem with Africa, I've always said it, is a mindset. If we don't change our mindset in Africa, we will produce the same results. I think was it Kennedy who said no nation is calibrated by what lies underneath their feet or what lies between their ears. And that is so critical because Africa has a good percentage of the world's natural resources.
Yeah.
But are we the wealthiest continent in the
far
world?
from it.
No, we're not. So it's not about what lies beneath our feet. It's about what lies here between our ears. You know, I was doing a study and I found out that the world's GDP is about, I think, $105 trillion, according to the, I think, World Economic Forum or something. $105 trillion, right? We're about 8.1 billion people in the world.
Yeah.
Let's say we share that money evenly. Everybody gets their share. Each person will have about $11,900.
Wow.
No, about $12,900. Yeah, thereabouts. So everybody has their share. Do you know that in a few years, the money will return back to its original owners? So is wealth really about what you have in your hands or what happens here? Right.
Okay.
So if we share it evenly, in a few years, it goes back to the original owners. And that's because we haven't fixed the mindset. When you change the mindset of the people to begin to prioritize the right things, right? To begin to shift from just survival mentality and scarcity mentality to an abundance mentality, right? To begin to think of how, you know, it has to be beneficial also for the collective good and not just for my good, right? When we begin to make that a culture within the African context, oh my goodness, we are going to definitely be, you know, one of the continents that everybody wants
to reckon with.
Yeah.
But Africa seems a bit far away. But I pray I experience it.
It's possible.
It's a prayer.
Yeah. It is.
Especially with the economy.
But it's definitely possible.
I feel like it would be great to see a lot of change coming from the government, first of all, because that's the way to, you know, change things at scale, you know.
True.
Down here in Africa, we're very individualistic, right? Everybody's just wants to grab their own thing, you know, themselves, their families, and that's it. You know.
Interestingly, it wasn't always like that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Historically, if you even look at, you know, before the colonial masters, so to speak, came and all that, right? If you read about African history, you'd read about places in the southern parts of Africa where the culture was relational identity over individual autonomy, where we grew up in communities and we looked out for another. So it's in South Africa, or southern part of Africa, they had this Ubuntu ideology, right? You know, and it was a collective ideology. So I am because we are, right? An injury to one is an injury to all, right? That was the orientation, and now we've embraced what was sold to us by the West that now makes us individualistic. So, for instance, in my estate, we have security at the estate. Then everybody has their own individual security. You know, at their gates. And everybody, so you have a block that has maybe 6 flats and each flat has their own generator. That one generator can supply the entire house. But you're wasting resources. 6 generators supplying individual. So everybody is now individualistic, looking at their you know. But originally that wasn't
the
design.
So from the work you do as a management consultant, and you know, even with your foundation, do you see the inner workings of people who are more educated being different from that of those who are less educated, or do you see that we all operate on, you know, the same inner workings, irrespective of your exposure, your education, and all of that? What has your experience been?
Education plays a major role. Oh, it does.
I will tell you why I asked that. Sorry to cut you. Because a lot of things we see in society today are still perpetrated by the very educated people, right? So I started by talking about the fact that, okay, in politics, for instance, you barely find any, you know, ideologies really guiding, any principles really guiding how these guys, you know, go about their thing. You know, once you're wealthy and you have money to spare, you know, people line up behind you, right? So, but for the most part, most of us we're enlightened. The people who defend, you know, those kind of people, those kind of behavior are also enlightened. So is there really what impact has education had on our inner workings when we're not seeing a society that has anything to show for that.
I think at the end of the day is what you are teaching. So you can educate on different things, right? A lot of times we tend to prioritize educating on, so to speak, the technical things.
Yeah.
But how about education on values?
Yeah.
In parts of Asia, right? For instance, in Japan, is systemic.
Yeah.
It's part of their culture to educate that way. That's why you go to the World Cup and then you'd see that the Japanese team is cleaning the stadium.
Yeah.
Because it's part of the education. Is what they are taught. So the question is, what are we as a collective in Africa teaching and empowering our people that is cultural to us, that is African, right? What ideology do we have as Africans? That's why I give the example of the Ubuntu, right? If imagine that was the ideology
that we still had
till today,
it'll be different.
It'll be different.
Very different.
Would we have those kinds of leaders? No.
Mr. Bankole Williams, today has been really eye-opening, and we just thank you for coming. But Ben, there's this thing we normally do.
Yeah. So it's a final question we ask our guests.
Yeah.
Okay. So the podcast is to be quite honest. So the question is, to be quite honest,
I wish more Africans. You could do more Africans since you have a foundation.
Do you understand?
Okay.
So the question is, to be quite honest, I wish, and then you finish it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So have you put your thoughts together?
Take your time. No pressure.
So let me also try to fit what's we're talking about.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
So to be quite honest, Mr. Bankole Williams, I wish
Africa will become the most desirable place to live in a few years.
I would love to be in Africa, man.
Yeah.
Me, I know I'm not living anywhere else in Africa. In my time, but let me look at that now. You'll not be watching from heaven.
I'll be after you've sown seeds.
I'm telling you. No,
is it watching from heaven?
No, I don't want to watch from heaven. I want to experience.
In my lifetime.
But that's lovely.
All right, thank you so much to our guests. Thank you so much, Mr. Bankole Williams, for gracing us with your presence, for sharing with us the things that organizations pay you lots of money for. Thank you on behalf of our audience as well, and to our audience, thank you for staying with us all the time. This has been very interesting, as it always is. Looking forward to seeing you at our next episode. Thank you once again, and bye-bye.